It's time for another episode of Rainmaker for Contractors. Interviews and success stories with $1 million plus basement waterproofing and foundation repair owners. Discover how they market and grow their companies in today's economy. Hear directly from the most successful leaders in your industry. With your host and Rainmaker for Contractors owner, Bill Crawford.
Welcome everyone to the Rainmaker for Contractors podcast. Today we do have a really special guest with a very unique story. Sean Worthington is joining us. Sean has been in the business, well, basically his whole life. He's a third generational basement waterproofer. And without any further ado, Sean, welcome. Can you tell us about your company and the services that you offer and where you're at?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I'm a third generation waterproofer. I've been around it all my life, but I haven't been in it all my life. After college, I actually started an IT company, did that for about 5 years before then I sold that. And then I got involved in, helping my dad with the family business. So I've been doing this for close to 20 years. We started out as basically a nice little French drain company. That's what we did, French drains, that's it. Now we are what I consider a full service basement health company where we do waterproofing. French drains, of course, is the backbone of that, but we also offer moisture management, air quality improvement, basement egress windows, basically anything that helps make the basement a safer, healthier environment to protect both the structure and the inhabitants inside the house.
That's awesome. And what is your what's the area that you're covering?
We're just about maybe 30 minutes west of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. So we have sort of kind of a 5-county area around us. It's Chester County, Delaware County, Montgomery County, northern Delaware. We'll go out to Lancaster a little bit, but that's our basic area.
That's a big area. That's good. Hey, I remember, you mentioned grandfather, father, uncle, brother, cousins. I mean, you've really been in this business a long time. And I understand, growing up versus being in it, but no doubt at dinner time, I'm sure you grew up with several basement waterproofing stories. So it's always interesting to hear that, what conversations did you grow up with around the dinner table? So no doubt there's some waterproofing questions there.
Yeah, so it's interesting. My dad was on the sales side. He was never, my dad, he was in the Army, he was Green Beret, then he went to school for finance, worked at Verizon, well, it wasn't even Verizon, Bell Atlantic for 20 plus years. Then he got involved with the family. He was always on the sales side of things. So he wasn't coming and going, oh my God, you should have seen the system we had to do. Oh, the digging, it was never any of that. But when I was in high school, my dad made me go work with the crews for my grandfather. I lasted about a week. Said, forget this, I'm going to college, which I'm pretty sure was my dad's intention when he.
Smart dad.
Yeah, he was.
That's awesome.
But then X amount of years, here I am, right back in it.
So we've known each other for a while through the Basement Help Each Other. We've both been on the board of directors for the Basement Help for many years. We've had several talks. I really think you have such a unique story, and through your hard work and efforts, we've all seen you go from, at one time, one sales rep and one crew to now I think you're running 5 sales reps, multiple crews. And I think you've figured out how to break through some of the common barriers. Gosh, how do you get to that next crew? And then how do you add another crew there? And, how do you support enough sales reps to give them enough leads and sales training, all sorts of obstacles that all waterproofers run through. If we could start with your crews, kind of curious how you went from one crew to 2 crews.
So back when my dad was at the helm, we had one main crew that was comprised of 3 brothers. And these guys were amazing. They could knock out a whole job in one day and the quality was top notch. They were machines. As they sort of grew and evolved, and I guess their family dynamics, they actually separated into, at one point they were each their own crew. The one brother kind of bounced back and forth, but bottom line, the middle brother, he became his own crew and he went to work for somebody else, other waterproofing companies. So my senior foreman's been with us for over 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some experience.
And he was handpicked by my dad. We had a lot to choose from when he was making this transition after my uncle passed away. And my dad said, you're the one.
Nice.
You're the best. You got the best quality, best work ethic, no callbacks. I mean, you're the one I want to attach our name to. So he's still with us. As we've grown, the younger brother has since now come back, and now he is our second full-time crew. So it's just a matter of kind of size and volume, and part of it was he had his experience out there with some of the other companies. Not to bash anybody, but our industry doesn't have a great reputation, unfortunately, and there are plenty of good reasons why. And he just wasn't treated very well by a lot of the other companies that he worked for. So I think he appreciates being back here where we just do things different.
Wow. All right. So between your two foremen you've mentioned, you got to have 50 plus years of experience between those two guys.
Yeah, definitely, easily.
And then how did you get to a third crew?
So the third crew is interesting. My wife is in the Navy. One of her friends in the Navy, her husband, is just kind of a labor masonry kind of guy. And he said, hey, why don't you come and work for us? So he actually worked with Milton, my senior foreman, for probably about 2 years. Then he found an offer where he went and worked in carpentry for about 2 or 3 years. So he left us for a little while. And then as we really got rolling into this egress window thing, it really started taking off. We reached out to him and said, hey, are you interested in coming back and, sort of running your own crew with these windows? And he did. So now he's been with us doing windows full time for, I think it's 2 years now.
Awesome. That's great. Boy, and so you've had a lot of sales reps. It's not easy to find good sales reps. Every company in the country wants a good sales rep. How did you, if you have 5 sales reps, you clearly have a culture and they must get sales. They must understand sales. How did you get to where you're at from having one rep at one time?
So again, we're different. I don't hire sales reps. I hire educators, people who can educate well, and people who are honest, and people who have, just good moral backbones. If a $1 million salesman from one of the bigger waterproofing companies came and applied to me, I would not hire him. No offense to him. I'm sure he can sell great. I'm not, but that is not the culture we have. That is not the way we sell. It's not the way we operate. I want somebody to go in and be able to educate the customer effectively. And if they do that well, the customer's natural decision is going to be, yeah, this makes sense. Of course we have to do this. Where do I sign? No pressure, so we don't, if most of our industry, if a salesman walks out of that door without a contract and a check, even if that customer calls the next day and says, hey, we want to sign up, that salesman doesn't get a commission. We're not like that. That to me, that just doesn't, it may be great for revenue, but revenue is not the most important thing. Being able to look at yourself in the mirror and feel like you're helping people grow, to me, is the most important thing. And I just feel differently about how you do that.
Sure.
So I had not my first sales rep, but the first sales rep that I didn't inherit from my father when I took the helm was actually a contractor who we were his waterproofer. When his customers, he would rehab basements or whatever. If his customer needed waterproofing, he called us. In fact, I wouldn't even go. We wouldn't even go on an estimate. It would say, hey, Pete, what do you need? He'd say, I need 100 feet and 2 pumps or whatever. I gave him a price and boom. That was it. He didn't call anybody else. He knew he did his homework. He called around to lots of waterproofing companies and he interviewed us, and we talked for a while, and he decided, hey, we were the ones that really knew what we're doing and we're the right fit for him. So we were his waterproofer for probably 15 years. Then he's starting to get a little older, getting tired of swinging the hammer. he decided, we had a conversation and said, hey, how about you come sell for me? And he did, and it turned, it definitely took a little while, the transition. Took a while for him to learn how to be an effective salesman, going from running your own thing where your job is to get this job done, build a bathroom or build a basement, to, hey, explaining to people how we're going to, waterproof your basement. It's definitely a different thought process. It takes a while to make that transition. But once he did, he really, I'd say probably mid year 2 to year 3, he just took off, and he was doing fantastic. Problem is that then he moved to Florida. He retired and moved to Florida. But my second salesman, former Marine, 0 sales experience. He was also former contractor. He was the husband of one of my best friend's daughters. So maybe not family, but certainly a close family connection.
Sure.
So somebody, if you're connecting the dot, you kind of see these are people that are close to me, people that I know. I'm not just putting an ad out on Craigslist, people that I can trust, and that's, and the same thing. He, what a different world selling waterproofing is compared to going out and swinging hammers, right?
Totally.
Took him a little while, but he really, he really just committed himself, and now he's my best salesman. He's my top seller.
That's awesome. Would you say you were able to kind of build a core a little bit around that first sales rep? Build a sales culture and so on?
Well, yeah. Because one of Pete's main thing, Pete had actually worked for Mid-Atlantic selling 20 plus years ago, even before he was a contractor. He did it for about a year, and he just couldn't. He really disliked it. That whole high pressure, thing. So he would rail against that at any step, which is exactly what I want. I don't want any high pressure. Ask for the sale and close the deal, but not with those high pressure used car salesman tactics. Like that's
Sure.
not who we are, And so when Darius came in, he was able to help maintain that. Once Pete left, so now I'm down to Darius, right? Well, now we got, 3.5, I guess you could say 4 other guys came in. One of which just randomly happened to find us. He was moving from Boston. So he's the only stranger. The other 3 are people that Pete knew for probably 15, 20 years.
Nice.
Much younger guys, but people that he knew. So again, there are family connections here. This is not, we're not just putting ads out on Craigslist or Indeed or whatever. We're pulling in people that we know and we trust. One was a gym teacher. The other one is actually Pete's son, Pete Jr.
That works. He grew up in basement waterproofing stories too.
Yeah,
just like definitely. You did. They were sales related.
That's right.
That's funny. I guess Pete was more, swinging the hammer a little bit. Okay. So you built a core, and it's interesting you made that comment of like, hey, I don't like to hire people from, other basement waterproofing companies, even if they're doing $1 million a year. I think a lot of industries are that way. That the industry that really jumps out is accounting firms, and accountants have a certain way to do things, and it's so often difficult to train a dog to do new tricks, right? The old dog new trick thing, and especially if you have this, we work with people that we know and we trust, and you're trying to find someone from the outside who's got all these different tricks of the trade. I could see where this is going to be a total culture clash, and it's just hard to undo someone's habits sometimes. So that makes a lot of sense. I have not heard. You sound really successful at being able to pull in, friends of the family, people that you trust, and doing well with it. So more power to you. That's awesome. I think you build your credentials up a lot. I've always been a big believer in credentials. That there are signals to customers to say, hey, we're doing all the things right. You could trust us. We're we have the certification, we have the membership, we have the reviews, all those kind of things. And I think you've done a good job over the years. What are some things you've done to build up your credentials, to build trust with people?
Well, without question, one of the biggest ones is joining the Basement Health Association and getting certified through there. At one point, I think this is still true. I have 3 certifications from the Basement Health Association. I don't believe. There's one other person that I know had 3, but that was Pete, the guy who worked for me, that just retired and moved to Florida. I don't think anybody else has 3 certifications from the Basement Health Association.
Wow.
And I am on the certification committee, and I have been sent some of those lists before. That it may have changed, but even if there is 1 or 2 other people, it's a very small number.
No, that's impressive.
So I really kind of dove in with both feet to the B.H.A. and really attached myself to that, and I found tremendous value in it.
All right, since we're on B.H.A., all right, so you not only became a member, which is kind of a cue, hey, we're involved with our association, but then you became certified in waterproofing, and then you found there's 2 other, so total of 3 certifications. So it's kind of a lot. Since we're on the topic of B.H.A., what role has B.H.A. helped in your growing your company besides, say, the certifications and the credentials that come from that?
I cannot say enough about how being involved in the B.H.A. has transformed my business. If I had to pick one single thing that made the difference, it would be, and it's not just joining, it's being active, being in the room. You have to be in the room. If you're not in the room, you're not getting the benefit. But showing up to all the B.H.A. events, when I first joined, I knew this group was out there, but didn't know that much about it. And I came to that first event kind of skeptical, thinking, all right, I'm 3rd generation. We've been doing this for 60 years. What could we possibly not know, right? What am I possibly going to learn from this? And oh my God, let me tell you, I have learned more in the past, I don't know what it's been, 7 years, I forget, whatever, through the B.H.A. than the prior 13 years of doing this with my father.
Wow.
I cannot say enough about it.
That's awesome.
I would not be doing air quality. I would not be doing egress windows. I would not be doing exterior membranes and exterior footer drains. There are so many things I would not be doing, not to mention how we sell and how we educate. We used to do, when the big rains came, I used to do 10, 15 appointments a day. Well, how are you spending time educating people if you're going to 10, 15 different
For sure.
Houses? You're not. You're just going in, walking, measuring, say, all right, it can be, whatever, $10,000, and you're off to the next one.
Yeah.
And they're left going, and what was that? They have no ability to really understand why. So we completely changed how we address the customer.
That's super impressive. That is really strong testimonial. Should probably be on like the B.H.A. website or something. That's great. Good to hear. And how about reviews? What do you do to get reviews? What are maybe any systems that you have in place?
So, reviews has always been a kind of an irritating thing to me, in the sense of, like, why don't people just do it, right? Like, why is this something I have to put effort into, right? And the problem being, now we're back to time, right? And I got so many other things to deal with. This is never getting to the top of my list. So the way we changed that is we just found someone, and all right, guess what? You're in charge of reviews. I'll pay you X amount, and it's not a big amount. It's a small amount. X amount for every review you get for us, good or bad, and if you're able to get them to do a second review, like the first review always comes through our website. And if you're able to get them to do once that happens, if they'll do a second review on Google or Better Business Bureau or Home Advisor or whatever, then you get an extra couple dollars.
Nice.
So the main thing is just having one person, that's their job, let them focus on it. It can't, when you got calls from salesmen and foremen and like all these problems and stuff, you just cannot focus on that.
And it can't be you, right?
It can't be me.
It's got to be
That's
someone
right.
else. Right.
That's right.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, that's good. Hey, COVID, how did COVID impact your business, and what's something that's good that's actually come out of COVID for you?
So for me, probably the most surprising positive thing is the fact that I've got two young kids, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. 6-year-old at the time was in kindergarten. Now she's in first grade. So she did a lot of school from home. The 4-year-old who was in preschool, well, now he's home. My wife works for the Navy. She's a recruiter, so she's gone. She's out the door and quite often not home until 8 o'clock at night. So, which means not just my time, but my focus, vast majority of it is on them. Because anybody who's ever had a 4 or 6-year-old knows what kind of energy that requires. And what that meant was that I had, if I was going to continue running my business, I had to delegate, I had to decentralize, I had to bring in more people to help do all the things that I normally did. I mean, I normally did everything. I, did apply for the permits, deal with the,
Yeah, helper there.
Yeah.
A few more years, he's going to be on the phones with you.
Yeah. So, I would issue all the checks, do all the bookkeeping. I would handle all the customer service calls. I was bringing inputting appointment. I was doing everything, and that just we couldn't sustain that. So it forced me to reorganize the business. The first thing I did is I actually kind of made a little flow chart of all the things that I do, from the time a call comes in to the time they become a customer to the time we get the job done. What are all the steps? And I looked at those and said, okay, what doesn't have to be me? What could I delegate, even if I don't have the person yet? Like, what are things that somebody with a couple brain cells could theoretically do? So that was sort of step one. And then I kind of sort of set those aside, and I looked for people, and at first it wasn't like a full-time, like, hey, I need to hire a full-time person. It was, sometimes somebody part-time virtual, they could do this stuff. And that's actually kind of how we started. And it's kind of sort of snowballed from there. We actually hired Pete's wife, Pete Senior's wife. She started out just sort of handling the incoming home advisor leads, doing a couple of various administrative stuff. It was like a little part-time deal. Now she's my I guess you could call her my office manager, except she lives in Florida, so she's doing it all virtually, right?
That's awesome.
We have one of my other salesman's wife, Brandy. She's got 3 young kids in the same boat as me. She processes all the permit applications. This is stuff she can do, midnight if she, like whenever's convenient for them. She can do it weekends. So it helps her, brings them some more income, which with 3 kids they can certainly use. But it's, it's easy for her to manage. My sister, who's an elementary school teacher, she's about to retire at the end of this school year, and she's going to start working for me this summer, full time. She lives in Virginia. Again,
Wow.
She can work virtually. There's no reason, there's no reason for this type of stuff. There's no reason you can't do it virtually. So that's how we kind of sort of evolved and grew, kind of decentralized. At this point, anything, if it requires me, then we probably have a problem, because I'm the cog in the wheel now, whereas I used to be, the driver.
You were everything. You were all the spokes in the room and everything.
Yeah. Now I'm the problem. So, which.
So you must just really be good at delegating and assigning and you finding good people, and they're just running with the ball. So that's awesome.
Yeah, well, that is the key, is finding good people that you trust, that are intelligent. Corinne's sharp as a tack. She used to manage television studios back in the 80s. So she knows, she would be managing studio time for multiple different crews. And she can handle this stuff.
Yeah. And I think, so what I hear you saying is COVID really kind of forced you to figure out how to work with people in different locations, as it did for a lot of us. And we have to keep our doors open and we can't gather in the office, right? But right now it's working really well for you because you have someone in Florida, you have one or two other people that they're not even in the state. They're like hundreds and hundreds of miles away. And you seem to be cruising. So that's awesome. How do you manage, you've talked about it briefly. I was going to ask, how do you manage this thing from home? So you've found good people, you've delegated. Any other thoughts on like running a waterproofing business from home?
Well, I was forced to do it, which means it was forced to come to terms with the hardest part is just being able to let go of the control, right? And that's right. That's
a hard one for a lot of people, right?
It is. Yeah, it is. But at some point, you're not going to grow until you do that. Because if everything has to go through you only have, there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much bandwidth you have as an individual person. So until you can find people that you trust, you're willing to hand things off to them and not stand over their shoulder the whole time, because at that point, you're not saving time. You're still wasting the same amount of time on the same thing, just somebody else is doing it. You just got to let them go with it. And yeah, mistakes can be made, but look, that's part of the growing process. And you'll get over it, you learn, you improve. Yes. So that was sort of the biggest one. As far as being kind of virtual and decentralized, we had been that way for 30 plus years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my father reorganized our business. When my uncle was running things, we had like a yard and space and whatever, which also means overhead, right? So when you hit a drought, guess what? Now you're scrambling to pay the bills and guys without work and all sorts of stuff. So my father organized everything. All the crews have their own stuff. They have their own trucks, their own tools. They keep their stuff at their houses, their place.
Wow. Yeah.
Which means we knew it doesn't matter how long a drought lasts, we can survive. When the rains come, we're still going to be here.
Nice.
Ready to go. So that part wasn't new for us. I had actually, shortly before the pandemic, I'd actually been sort of in that mode of thinking like, man, if we wanted, I think maybe we really do need an office, kind of more for almost culture building stuff. Like, how do you build a culture when nobody's ever in the same room together? That's kind of a challenge, and there are still challenges. I mean, by no means do we have a perfect business with no problem. We do have challenges, and there are lots of ways in which having a central office would be nice. It would be beneficial. But is it worth that overhead? And worth putting yourself in that position where when the rain stops, you could be in a tight spot? No, I at this point the answer is no. I haven't.
Sure, for sure. COVID's kind of worked well. It sounds like you were already headed that way, or you were that way, and that's cool. Hey, how about core values? When you think of like what motivates you now, is it about the money? Is it about waterproofing? What drives you these days?
Yeah, definitely not the waterproofing, and not even the money. Money is something we use to measure our progress and our success. It is a tool, and I expect to make, I expect to make money. It's not, it's not like I don't want to. I expect it. But if we're doing the right things in the right way, then the money just follows as a byproduct. We were originally Springfield Waterproofing. That was the company my grandfather started. Then, over the years and generations it evolved. Then there was Brandywine Waterproofing. Then there was Brandywine Springfield Waterproofing, was sort of when my father was at the helm. When I bought it, I said, okay, that's all fine. They have good names, but this name right here, like, people will call us and say, is this the Worthingtons? Because I want to deal with the Worthingtons.
Nice.
Right. So I said, this is the name I'm putting on my door, because this name means something to me. Quality is number one. That is our absolute, first concern. Profit is probably not even in the top five. Again, it's expected.
Sure.
but that's not what's driving us. At this point, for me personally, I'm driven by helping people. And I'm not talking about my customers. My salesmen and my crews, they help my customers. My job is to help my people, to help my salesmen and help my crews, help put them in a position to succeed. I mean, this industry is, I'm sure it's not the only one, but it's kind of rare to work in an industry where you could offer somebody with no college education, no particular high IQ, right? An opportunity to make six-figure salary.
Yeah.
That's life-changing money, right? That provides their family with tremendous opportunities that they probably would not have had in any other industry. Now, it's not as simple as, hey, do this job and I'll pay you a lot of money. I mean, there's more to that. There's more support they need. When you get money, what do you do with it? How do you manage that money? How do you put yourself in a position where you're not going to, now you make a lot of money. Well, now, guess what? Now you got a huge tax bill that you weren't thinking about or didn't expect. Right. So there's a lot of sort of background stuff of how you help them grow as people, not just as earners. But that's what drives me.
That's awesome. I love it. It reminds me of Ken Blanchard's principles, the upside down pyramid. It's not you on the top lording over everyone. It's you on the bottom serving your employees, and your employees are serving your customers. So it's very cool. Hey, as we wind things down, do you have any nuggets of wisdom or any last words you want to share for any contractors that are trying to, get over those barriers that are blocking them? You've done this, you've persisted, you've grown your company. Any last thoughts?
Well, there are a couple things I would recommend. And if we're talking specifically waterproofing contractors, I would say first and foremost, join the Basement Health Association, and don't just join, show up. Get in that room. You start meeting and talking to other waterproofers, so many benefits. You're going to learn so much stuff. And even if, let's just hypothetically assume you didn't learn a thing, just being in that room and realizing you are not the only person in the world struggling with the issues that you're struggling with, that alone really takes a big portion of that burden off your shoulders, knowing that there's somebody else out there that can understand what you're going through and what, how you're feeling by having to deal with it. So that's number one. Join the B.H.A, get active, show up to the events. Number two, my recommendation would be think about, all the things that you have to do. What are the ones that you are good at or the ones that you enjoy? And then what are the ones that you are not good at or the ones that you really don't enjoy? Those, figure out how to delegate. Now, if you're, a smaller owner operator, then you probably are either on the sales side or maybe on the installation side. And those are probably the things that you like best. Well, then I would recommend your first hire should be somebody to help you on the administrative stuff, because that's going to free up a lot of your time that you can put into the things that you enjoy doing. And people can tell when you enjoy doing it. I mean, if you enjoy sales, great. Get out there and do sales. Let somebody else do the permits and the paperwork and the payment processing and all the stuff that bogs you down. And that it changes your demeanor, when you're in front of customers. So that would be probably my two biggest recommendations. Join the B.H.A, get rid of the stuff you're not good at or don't enjoy. Find somebody else to help you with that.
It's huge, buddy. That's big stuff. And, it's easier said than done, but it's all about in the do, and it's all about making it happen. That's good. Letting go of control. And yeah, I love it. Hey, Sean, thank you so much for being on Rainmaker for Contractors podcast. You shared some great wisdom. I certainly hope that people are able to benefit from your many years of experience in the industry.
No problem. It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Rainmaker for Contractors podcast, where basement waterproofing and foundation repair business owners and industry experts share marketing and sales information that helps you reach more customers. Please leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, and get all of our show notes at rainmakerforcontractors.com/podcast.